Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the Sketchy Ideas show where we debate point counterpoint things around business, leadership, personal development. I'm Brad James.
And I'm Michael Rampolla.
And today we're actually going to dive deep into the mindset around sales and what that means. But before we get there, a word from our sponsors.
Spirity.
Michael, go ahead.
Spirity. Overcome your obstacles. For business owners and HR leaders, we help you grow and scale. Business owners, would you like to grow and scale your business and have a much better outcome to this year than where you started? HR leaders, do you have talent that you need to do more with less? We would love to help you with both of those opportunities. Spirity.
The more you know. And our other sponsor is Cream City Marketing. It's a full service, full-scale marketing agency, everything from traditional to digital and everything in between, where we help you build out systems, strategy, and frameworks to help you scale up your sales and marketing efforts in order to generate more revenue and profits. With that, give us a call, creamcitymarketing.com, and you can inquire more there. And with that, I think it's time to dive into our magical world of the sales mindset. I was going to draw a brain up here, but I decided that my drawing, since I got made fun of the last time, I shouldn't do that.
It is sketchy ideas for a reason, Brad.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. All right. So the mindset of the salesperson. So, Brad, you have a good way, I think, to look at what does it truly mean to sell. I think sales sometimes gets a bad rap. I think there still persists the stereotype of the used car salesman or the person who is pushing or hustling his wares, so to speak. But that's not really what we're talking about.
Correct. We're not talking about the what's the broom guy?
The Fuller Brush Man.
Fuller Brush Man, yeah. In fact, I don't know if they're still selling door to door, but last I heard, there were only 3 left in the world actually doing it the old school way. But they were still doing okay, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Fuller Brush Man, the person who hustles, grinds, does all the things they need to do to make sure that those wares are out there. You don't find them anymore, partially because we now live in the age of the internet and people have that opportunity to buy. But in fact, we actually have to think about that means if you have been a salesperson for the last 30, 40 years, you've gone through probably the biggest evolution in how sales actually works. From being the person who was the expert in everything that you were talking about, industry, product, services, etc., now to becoming more of a consultative salesperson. So the way we end up defining the process of marketing, the sales to closing, is marketing is the shifting of beliefs, sales is rapport building and objection handling, and closing is as simple as giving the rationalization of why somebody needs to make a decision right now. And notice money was not listed in any of those things. And that's because we sell every single day, whether or not we are in the role of a salesperson for a company, or if we're inside of an organization having to sell ideas to our partners, teammates, family members every single day.
Okay, so hold on. You flew through that last little 3-part there, and I think that's worth touching on again. Could you hit those 3 things again? Because it's all right. So here's the thing, folks. Remember, we did sales process. We did a big deep dive on process. And Brad, I think you just completely reframed our entire sales process in terms of how we think about it. What were those 3 points again?
Well, marketing. Marketing is the shifting of beliefs. Sales is rapport building and handling objections. And closing is simply the rationalization of why somebody needs to take action right now.
Shifting, handling, rationalizing.
Yep.
And if I am the Fuller Brush Man going door to door, I have to do all of that in about, well, this is where the term the foot in the door comes from, right? If I get that door open, even a crack, and I can literally get my foot jammed in the door, then I can keep that door open long enough, hopefully, to get to the objection handling, because the objection is, I don't need it. I don't want it.
Right.
I don't know you, or whatever it might be, right?
Or the value of what you're saying is not worth what you're asking me to do.
So all of that is my ability to get to the sales conversation So I'm not going to be able to handle any objections unless I can get to a conversation where objections are going to come up, right?
Correct.
Got it. So shifting, handling, and closing is what again? Rationalizing. Now that sounds fancy. Tell me about what that means.
That means most everybody, regardless of doing anything, we are inherently lazy creatures, which means that people prefer the status quo and are unwilling most of the time to take action right away, regardless of what that action is.
So my job of closing is to get somebody to move off of lazy?
Or move off of status quo. Because typically if you're having a conversation, I think status quo is probably a better word, but people, any animal, any human being, if you think about it, the goal of human being or any organism is survival, right? And typically the best way of survival is through doing the least amount of work, because the least amount of work equals the least amount of stress. And therefore the least amount of stress creates the best energy or highest level of satisfaction.
Conservation of energy, conservation of resources. I don't know when I might need these things to run away from a mastodon.
Correct.
Right. So,
mastodon.
So therefore, I'm like lazy as survival skill. I like it. Okay. So therefore, getting me to actually get off my duff is telling me that, hey, this fuller brush is actually going to help you to stave off future mastodon attack, and therefore it might be good to have a couple in your home, sir and or madam.
Or when the mastodon shows up, it will take you less energy to handle it. You don't have to run, right? So
I can distract him with a tusk brushing. I can, here, sir. Allow me to. Yes.
And the rationalization could be determined in the rapport building and objection handling phase of, well, we get a mastodon attack every other day, and you go, well, tomorrow looks like today, so you might as well get this now.
I like it. This is my very poor. I don't even know what a fuller brush is, but I'm just going to pretend that it's a brush on a broom handle.
For those of you who are unaware, the fuller brushmen were like the original Granger Supply, Uline, your supply store for cleaning and maintaining the operations.
This is a Fuller brand brush. I'm not going to put it up against the Mastodon because I really do think the Mastodon is going to win. All right. So in that world where I am the door-to-door Amazon, Granger, etc., that sounds like really hard work. Why did so many people do such hard work? And why is this brush so dang important? It's not possible that everybody needs this, right?
Well, that is the point, right? Of understanding avatar and those types of things. So everybody might need it in some capacity, but that doesn't mean those are the easiest people to build rapport with based on who you are.
Interesting. So if I am the door-to-door salesperson with my pack of brushes, why did so many people? I mean, you and I have talked about this, right? That sales gets a bad rap, but we actually think that it's worth talking about sales in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So what's my why am I out hustling and grinding and dodging prehistoric creatures in order to get my wares to the people who need it? Why am I going through such a darn big hassle?
As a salesperson, because you have dreams or aspirations most of the time, or you're trying to generate enough with your trading to make sure your cave is supplied with food, firewood, you've waterproofed, whatever you would prefer. So typically there's that balance of things, or maybe you have more of a community you have to take care of. Maybe you're Fuller Brush company, you've grown to be more than you. And so now you have people who are helping you and they're adding value. So because of that, you kind of have a moral obligation to sell because you're now making sure those people on your team are being taken care of as well.
So moral obligation, I think, changes and shifts this whole conversation. When I say that I have a moral obligation to sell, That's a whole different animal. No, pardon the animals again. That's a whole different animal than I'm just trying to make a buck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have a moral obligation to sell. And I think I've said this, so I like the way that you're putting it. My shorthand for that is to sell is really to serve, which is I am serving you customer, you potential customer, you prospect, you insert term here, because I have identified that you would actually benefit from this thing that I have, this product or service that's going to help improve, modify, etc. Therefore, me helping you by getting you my thing. Say it again.
Solving their pain. You're helping them solve pain of some sort. Yeah.
I'd be like a doctor with a prescription that doesn't bother writing it because I feel bad. I really don't want to give this to them. I don't want them to feel obligated to take it. But I've already identified that it's going to take your pain away. Why would I not give that to you? Why would I not even offer that to you if I already know that this is going to help?
So now we're eking very closely back to this fine line, right? So we have to keep in mind, right? This is where sales, if I look at sales as a premise of if you have a quality good or service or an offering that you know helps, right? Mm-hmm. You are morally obligated to go out and sell it. Now, if you are just good at sales and you're hustling snake oil, Dr. Michael, now
we have a problem.
You might not necessarily have that moral obligation, right? So this is the difference. And this is like, I think for you and me, especially, we've had these conversations over the last few years where we know there are really quality salespeople out there. They just don't have anything quality to sell, but they're so good at selling. And guess what? That's what they're best at. That's how they make money to feed their families. It's really hard to judge that. So a lot of this comes back to this is where the internet has played a role in this whole process and has shifted the whole mindset of buyers and sellers to being consultative, right? Which I think means that if you are now in the new age of sales, whether you believe it or not, there's information about your product, your services, your company, everything. It's out there on the internet. Mm-hmm. Even if you are one of the 40 some odd % of companies in the US that don't have a website on the internet. Somewhere you are on the internet and there is a review or a commentary or a referral or something. You just don't know it.
Makes sense. So we're now differentiating the Fuller brush is not the snake oil. So the Fuller brush salesman and the snake oil salesman are actually doing very different, even though they're both selling, the work that they're doing is very different work.
Correct.
The outcomes are different, the targets are different.
Totally. And one of them has the innate ability to understand that what I'm selling is good, and the other one is selling just for themselves selfishly.
Got it. So both of them might be good at sales, but now we're actually talking about intent. What is the intent of my, which I think is interesting, right? Because we talk a lot about the skills and the process and all those other things, but you're actually getting into the intent of the sale. Why am I selling?
Right.
Then follow up by what am I selling? So Simon Sinek, point for you, start with why. Why am I bothering to sell? I'm selling as moral obligation. I'm selling as make your life better. I'm selling because my desire is to serve.
Right.
It's a very all outward facing desires as opposed to, and if I do that well, then I get my own personal needs met. But it's a service mindset. It's a servant's mindset even potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you that to sell is to serve. I think sales, this goes back to why sales is such an admirable thing, because you are doing one of the toughest jobs there is in the world, right? Maybe not from a schooling standpoint, but from a serving standpoint, you are, because all of the stuff think if we didn't have salespeople in the world.
Huh.
I mean, we wouldn't have Zoom.
Right.
We wouldn't have our fancy phones.
Right.
We wouldn't have technology. We wouldn't have any of that, because without somebody selling that new innovation, we wouldn't have the freaking light bulb, right? We wouldn't have cars. We go way back. We wouldn't have some of the food we have to eat, right? That we just take for granted. We'd still be eating weird messed up corn that's literally the size of baby corn, only it's got like 4 kernels on it. You know, we wouldn't have the wheel, right? Like
without sales, we wouldn't have the wheel. That's a claim.
Yeah. Think about it. Think about the guy who said, you know what? I created this round thing. I'm picturing a caveman, right? Like a guy who's like, yeah. He's like, I don't need your brush to fight. I don't need spears to fight the mastodon. I'm just gonna get on this thing with wheels and push it down the hill and go faster than the mastodon.
I'm gonna run faster, right? Yeah, I like that.
Right. Yeah. And he's got to convince other people that it's a good idea, right? Or fire, right? Remember fire? Somebody had to convince everybody else that fire was probably a decent thing to have to keep warm at one point in time.
Think about the objections. Think about the objections to fire, right?
I
have small children. How am I going to keep this thing lit? Now you give me fire. Now I have to buy firewood too. Right. This is hilarious.
Or you almost blew up the cake when you lit that.
Yeah. All right. Nice. Oh, Ugg, you're going to bring fire by again? Yeah. Remember the last time you brought us fire, Ugg? No, this is new and improved. Safety. You put a safety catch on the torch now. Get out of here, Ugg. You and your fire.
Yep.
Whoa, who's going to want fire? It's a fad.
Or
fire and light.
How about this? Like think about when dogs, wolves, and human beings became friends, right? Symbiotic organisms. When that human being brings that wolf back into the village for the first time, and everybody's freaking out about
bringing that thing in here. Get that thing out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm gonna add one more, which is one of my favorites in the old chicken and egg conversation. The first egg salesman, I think, was a master, and here's why. He had to convince everybody else, listen, that thing that just came out of that chicken's rear end, we're going to eat that. We're going to eat that. We're all going to have it. Everybody's like, you know what? You go first. You go first.
How about milk?
Same. Yeah, good. We'll add a carton. We'll put a pint in here for you. Yes. You want to talk about great salespeople? I think those guys knew what they were doing, because without it, we wouldn't have any of this, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I know we've gotten way off track with this whole conversation, but there is a point to it, is the fact that all of the niceties that we enjoy, right, are lovely whiteboards. Without the whiteboard, we'd be working on chalk and breathing in chalk dust left and right, you know? So
assuming somebody convinced us that was a good idea.
Right. So the point is that without salespeople, and keep in mind, those first salespeople probably didn't exchange it for currency of any sort.
That's right.
They probably gave it away, but they had to convince somebody to use it.
So ultimately, and I think I'm going to do convince, and I don't want it to get the bad rap, because convince almost sounds like persuade in the negative sense, right? Like I need to convince you, right? Which means you wouldn't agree with me unless I convinced you. But to your point, sales is about responding to and handling objections. And listen, folks, look at these stupid, simple examples. We look at wheels now and we go, how could anybody object to a wheel, right? You look at fire, how could anybody? But at some point, if it's new and I haven't tried it yet, the iPhone, by huge definition.
The internet. We still are convincing people that the internet is a good thing.
Which, shouldn't we be past that by now?
Hey, can you imagine a world right now? We're in COVID. Can you imagine a world right now without the internet?
I can, but it's a whole lot darker. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it is.
Most of us are out of work, or worse at this point.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, folks. Brad said it earlier. He said it's about the status quo. If you are selling something to somebody that hasn't already bought it yet, you are by definition needing to respond to objections and convince them. And because you know that what you have serves their need, it is the medicine to their ailment, not the snake oil version, but the prescription version. Yep. You have an obligation to engage with them, respond to their objections, and help them to rationalize the purchase that you know they need to make to help them have a better life.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta
the psychology of the sales process.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody innately, whether they say it, speak it, or not, wants something better than what they have.
Correct.
Because it's the difference. It's honestly like I think most animals have souls. I think they think, right? Like I think that stuff. I believe it. But human beings, especially, the big thing that is different about us, and we've seen it in primates, right, is that we want something better or more. It's weird. It's a weird psychological mental thing that we haven't decoded yet. But there is something different where human beings are driven by aspirations. They're not just based on the need to survive. They're based on aspirations of having something more. Now, here's a mind, I gotta be careful with the word, mind screw.
Yep.
That could just be a sale, right? Maybe somebody's convinced the world of this. I don't know, but either way, we as a world population have determined that we can have more than what we have currently, which is why you go to school, which is why you take care of yourself, which is why you get up in the morning, which is why you eat. We don't live based on the lizard mind, which a lot of other organisms do.
I think my very simple analogy is like, why do we bother climbing mountains? I mean, really? Like, yeah. We're pretty sure there's not much up there, right? That's why am I bothering? That's aspirational. If you doubt aspiration, I think look around you. You might have lost it for yourself for the moment, but I think you're absolutely right, Brad. It is intrinsic into our character as human creatures. I think you're absolutely right on that.
Yep. And I think, I mean, it goes back to the point that every time we hit a plateau or one of your mountain peaks, we want to go even further.
Oh, no doubt.
It's the whole premise of, you know, when the first person broke the 4-minute mile, right? Then it became this cascade of a whole bunch of people breaking the 4-minute mile, right? When all of a sudden somebody figured out how to plant and nurture plants, the first person did it. All of a sudden, a whole bunch of people started doing it, right? That's how we got to civilizations around communities rather than hunters and gatherers. It's the premise of we hit a plateau and we need more, which is why I truly believe that it's just something innate in our DNA and our character rather than anything else. And I think salespeople are the ones responsible for bringing those new concepts and ideas to the people, even in the age of the internet, right?
Yeah.
Because you still have a salesperson designing the website, the copy, the messaging, et cetera, and helping you to navigate the why this would help you and helping to make sure that you take action on it, especially now, because people are bombarded. I think the number of ads like back in the 90s was like 1,000 different ads a day, and now it's at like 13,000 different ads every day. People are like touched by, and they don't realize it.
Massive.
Some crazy astronomical. Somebody should check me on that number. But
Brian, can you check him? I think Brian is already checking. The answer might be in your text. Brian is on top of fact finding today. He's like our own PolitiFact on the fly. It's kind of impressive. All right, so I think we've landed most of this. So we only have a couple minutes. Let me just throw a couple things, which I'm going to take back to keep it simple here. So if we're going to keep it simple,
keep it simple stupid or keep it simple?
I didn't call you stupid. If you want to self-label, I'm not going to do that for you. Listen, Brad, label jars, not people. Listen, let's talk about keeping it simple. That's That's a throw out for a bunch of friends of mine from years ago. All right. So keep it simple. The sales mindset is really, okay, to serve.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the servant mindset. I'm going to see if we were giving Brian a hard time earlier. Brian, pop quiz, hot shot. Do you remember the 3 questions for my sales process? So if you remember, so and keep it simple, when we did sales process, we said the qualification process is ultimately a process of just getting yeses to 3 simple questions. I don't know if he remembers, and it's probably not fair to put him on the spot since he's also busy fact checking. But he's a man of many simultaneous talents.
He's fact checking like a champ.
Yeah, he is. All right, I'll help him out. So the number 1 question is, do I understand what you need? And really the question is, do you believe that I understand what you need? So right. Need is the first question. Ultimately, really, I'm going to put it up here because it really, back to our marketing, sales, and closing, it, in a sense, follows that same pattern. Mm-hmm. First of all, do I understand what you need? Second, first of all, do you understand what you need? Do I understand? And do you believe that I understand? That's the need. Second question, do you understand what I offer? Do you understand how this brush works, in essence? And then last question is there a match? So when we say sales is a mindset, and if I'm going to keep that, I'm going to stay mindset and say, really, this is convincing, aspirational, helping people to get your great thing. Keep it simple when it comes to getting them the thing. Mm-hmm. Figure out what they need, figure out what you offer. And by the way, if what you offer isn't what they need, you can still sell. Because now you can sell and convince them into a better solution that's not even yours, right? Yep. This is the I can't serve you, but I know who can. Santa Miracle on 34th Street, right?
Yes.
So with apologies to not Victor Victoria, the other guy, Glengarry Glen Ross, ABC is classically always be closing, right? But I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip our sales mindset just a little bit. Because always be closing sounds like hard sales. It sounds like convincing, foot in the door, sell you the brush before I even know if you have a floor. I want to say ABC should and could easily always be connecting. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if I'm going to be a great salesperson, and I truly believe that my job is to serve and serve the needs of my customers, whoever they might be and whatever those needs might be, then if I am not the solution or I don't have it, if I have been doing a good job of connecting with others, I can help you find the solution to your problem. So ultimately, my goal is to serve your needs, which means I understand them. Once I understand them, if my offer is the offer, I have, to Brad's point, a moral obligation to sell you that offer, deliver my service or product to you. And I also, to level us up, if I'm a great salesperson, I also have a moral obligation to deliver to you the service or product that is not mine if it better meets your needs. If you're not sure if you truly get servant mindset as sales mindset, figure out if you would be willing to direct a potential customer to somebody else because it's a better outcome for them and not for you. That's a challenge.
All the time. Do it all the time.
And I know you do. And I believe that I do. My friends would have to tell me, but it is hard. Like, what does it take, Brad? What does it take to do that? Did you always do that? Were you always willing to sell it away?
No, I mean, and that's where if you are in sales, regardless, right? Like, it's always about coming up with the best solution. If you know the best solution is yours, great. That's the solution they need. If you know the best solution is potentially somebody else or something else, I think especially now, you risk losing significant rapport as a salesperson if you don't point that solution out. Because in the age of the internet, like I said, they can go find it. And then they're going to have questions about your expertise and your ability or desire to do what's best for them. And so often, like I have learned as a tool in my toolbox or a tactic, I will, if I know of other solutions, I will try to mention them. Yeah, BPOS is a great example of this, right? One of the things we always ask when we're going through and filtering out whether or not people are a good fit for the system and the offering and the tools we have in place is we go, are you looking to be a honey producer, or are you looking to do this for some other reason? Because we know that the systems and the tools that we offer are not focused around honey production. So when we get those people in, I have a Rolodex of other supports or supplies or companies that they can go to, or I will connect them directly. And by me doing that, here's what it does, is it creates trust and rapport. And at the end of the day, what happens 9 times out of 10 is they come back,
right,
and they get the thing anyway. Because
beautiful.
We are not traditional salespeople. We're not the person trying to push something on them that isn't a good fit. We are, in fact, trying to help them achieve the goals that they mentioned to us during the discussion. So fitting it to your need, which I think is a huge, like, that's where I say there's so many salespeople who've been doing this for so long. And you have to navigate the fact that if you want to remain on the top of your game, you have to do that more often than not. Now, the stats show that the really excellent salespeople way back when did that. But the ones who were like C-level, D-level, were hustlers, grinders, sold whatever they could, they hit a ceiling all the time and could never break through. Sure. And I believe that that's one of the reasons why. And that's why we get the concept of the sketchy salesperson, right? No pun intended, who's just there to push their wares rather than be a win-win situation.
I totally agree, and I think it goes back to if I'm going to serve those needs and be willing to serve those needs without making a sale. So first of all, it validates, and there are no like and trust. It validates the trust, right? Yeah. And as a salesperson, so if I start with my servant mindset, and I really do desire truly and wholly to meet the needs of my customers, every time I deliver or direct them to something that's not me, here's the 2 things I want you to remember. That requires confidence and patience. Yeah. Because a servant sales mindset is based on confidence and requires patience for it to work, especially when your solution is not the solution that best meets their needs. Because to Brad's point, they come back, but not right away. And it's the confidence and patience knowing that they will that enables you to truly serve them. So if you're going to send them to somebody else, in that moment, you have to leverage your personal confidence. And after that moment, you have to lean on your process confidence as well as your patience that says, if truly what I have is what they truly need, they will come back. And if not, I have still done for them what was best for them, which is what a servant does.
Yeah, it's back to the whole abundance versus scarcity as well, scarcity as well,
no doubt,
as well as, like, all of you have probably heard that when you give, it will come back tenfold later on. The challenge, especially for me and for people who are like impatient when it comes to like our own personal goals and growth, is we get extremely impatient.
I get that.
And Michael doesn't know anything about this, but Michael's extremely patient. And he looks at me and somehow he deals with me and he goes, this guy's going to run through a brick wall 5 times and he's going to have broken legs and he's not even going to be able to enjoy the win. That's what he says about me. So it's one of those things where it's a balance and it takes making sure that, you do have to have the oxygen mask on first. But if you give and give and give, like out into the universe, it will come back. And the thing is it doesn't always come back the way we want it to.
True. That's
the other part that we got to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. So, prime example, my mother was in sales still is technically, but been in sales almost her whole professional career. She was consistently one of the best salespeople in every company she worked for. And every time she got a different job or worked for a different company, it's because of that rapport, not only that she built with the company she worked with, because she did it this way, that was like a double-edged sword for her, because there were her bosses that said, why aren't you selling things? And she's going, we don't have the right stuff, but I know Joe over at this other company who does, it will come back. And some of her managers shot themselves in the foot because my mother was trying to do the right things in the moment, and then would get let go. But then that other company would pick her up, and the bonus would come back.
Guess where the boomerang's coming to at that point? Yeah.
Like, and so that company then all of a sudden that she left would lose a whole bunch of clients and customers, and they would follow my mother, because at the end of the day, this is one thing that I tell everybody who's a student who we work with in sales. The first thing people buy is you.
Right.
And their buying is their willingness to spend time listening or talking with you, period.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's the first exchange.
I love it. Great story, bud.
We went over again.
We did. We do. When it's good, it's good. Right, Brian? Whether Brian agrees or not. All right, folks. We're going to call that a wrap for today. Looks like I did most of the sketching, Brad. That whiteboard is way too clean. Point at your. There you go. Nice job. Listen, folks. Hope you had a lot of fun. We did. Would love to thank you for joining us for another episode of Sketchy Ideas. Keep your questions and requests coming. You know where you can send them. Are we on the new email or are we on the old email?
Yeah. Info. Hey, we've got a website. It's almost done. info@sketchyideasshow.com. There
we go. All right. Send your questions, your requests. At least, one explicit movie reference, one movie quote today. I know you're paying attention. All you gotta do is email us. Let us know that you heard it. Drop it in the comments. I don't care. Brian watches all the channels. So I hope you had a lot of fun with us. Brad James, Michael Rampolla for Sketchy Ideas. Remember, just because it's a sketchy idea doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. We look forward to seeing you next time. Topic TBD, taking requests. See you next week, everybody.
See ya.